Hey there, and welcome to another movie review stream. My name is Mark McPherson, film critic for movieswithmark.com, filminquiry.com, and twincitiesgeek.com. And I got a quick little one here today of just a few, just catching up on a few films here. I'm going to be reviewing Novocaine, the latest action comedy starring Jack Quaid, who I haven't seen in like a leading role in a while. I'll also be reviewing a new Steven Soderbergh spy thriller called Black Bag, and we'll also be looking at the well, not quite little, it's pretty big that it came across on my radar, but the Indian biopic of the Superboys of Malegaon. So we'll take a look at those three films, and usually I would get to these earlier, but these are like fairly new films. So if you'd like to see more early movie reviews, be sure to check out. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video, and also be sure to check out my latest video on the Ronald Reagan movie that came out last year. Worked quite a bit of time on that, so. And it's definitely I put a lot of passion into that one. So, all right, let's not stall any longer. Let's get right to the latest films this week. We'll cover Novocaine. Get the notes up here. And we'll jump right into it. Okay. Alright. Here we go with Novocaine in 3, 2, 1. Oh, wait, hang on. I need to make sure. Okay, good. The audio a little straight. So, I had to double check. The last thing I want is the mic to be off. Okay. So here we go with Novocaine in 3, 2, 1. So Novocaine is an action comedy about a man who can't feel pain who ends up being an unlikely action hero in this kind of action comedy. And, you know, like, I think whether or not you like this film, I think will depend on how much you're willing to go with the absurdity and the tone. Because I think a good barometer to test a film like this would be like how you react to like a film like Renfield. Because I did have quite a bit of fun with Renfield, but I think I had more fun with like the tone than anything else. I think, yeah, if you do like boil down the script, it's pretty weak in its writing. But the overall like giddy and violent tone, I think, was what drew me more into that film. To overlook a lot of its underdeveloped plot lines and characters. Novocaine is very much the same way. It's very much a case where you have to be in on the concept, and you got to be willing to, you know, stick with it through like its absurdity. And on that level, I'm a little bit torn because it is an over the top action film, but I don't think it's as over the top as it could be, because I think like the easy comparison to this film is not going to be something like Renfield. It's going to be something like Crank, which is just, you know, like a character who just takes beating after beating after beating and keeps getting back up and defeating people in the most over-the-top, ridiculous ways. I absolutely love Crank. And if you're judging Novocaine on that level, yeah, you are going to be disappointed. But I think if you are going into the film just to watch like Jack Quaid kind of like throw himself into these action scenes and kind of bluster the way that he usually does on shows like The Boys, you very much will get what you paid for here. I will say this though, I did actually kind of like the first act of the film more than I did like the back half, because I think there's a really good build-up, I think, of Jack Quaid's character of Nathan Kane, who's established as this person who has grown up not being able to feel pain. And you would think that, yeah, that would make him powerful and indestructible, but then it also makes him very cautious of the world, because if he can't feel pain, then, you know, he can't tell if his body is dying. So obviously, you know, he's careful with the food he eats, he's careful with how he treats his skin and how he keeps track of stuff, and he just treats the world very delicately. And then, you know, he works at a bank, and then, you know, into his life walks Sherry, played by Amber Midthunder, and Sherry just like opens up to him. Like he lets down a little bit of his guard, and she does as well. Like she reveals that she's been a little bit of suicidal, and she's working through some things, while Nathan is also working through some things, and they kind of form like a decent chemistry between them. It's not great, but I think it's enough that it plays up with them, where if you have no idea, if you have never seen like the marketing or the trailers for this film, and you just walked into it blind, you would almost swear like this is kind of going to be like a romantic comedy with the way that it starts off. Just because like there's no sign that there's going to be any like blistering action incoming, just because it settles into this tone of just like establishing the relationship between Nathan and Sherry, and they have some pretty cute moments together. Not a lot. It does feel like they are kind of speeding it through a little too quickly, but the chemistry is still there, where I did appreciate that, letting it build up before the action comes. Because when the action does come, it hits like a thunderbolt. Like, there are bank robbers who burst into like the bank. They start beating down on people. They try to steal as much money as they can, and they take Sherry hostage. And so Nathan figures, okay, well, I want to win her back, so he just kind of just jumps into the role of trying to, track down these robbers and beat them up with his skill to not feel pain and use it against them. So, of course, everything that you would expect him to everything that you would expect him to do in this film, he does. So, he grabs like hot pans, he takes punches to the face like almost with ease. Like, he doesn't have the greatest balance, but he can still get back up from them. He gets fingernails torn off, he gets like arrows in the legs, just all these different forms of mutilation, and he just kind of like almost brushes it off or tries to pretend that he's in pain to fool the robbers, and it kind of just keeps going from there. And I think that for like the first like 20 or 30 minutes of like all the brutal action scenes where Jack Quaid is like, oh, I don't really want to be a hero, I'm just forced into this. It's kind of fun. I do think, yeah, it does push itself through. With the screenplay, it doesn't really do a lot of jumping from going to being that romantic comedy into an action comedy. It just kind of just switches gears almost on a dime. And I know for a lot of people, that's going to turn them off immediately. And it's one of those things where you really have to be with it for the ride. And, just appreciate like Jack Quaid's performance as opposed to like how the screenplay builds up all these scenarios in which he gets like savage throughout the film, which I must admit, like it did carry me till the end of the film. I do think the more that it goes along, it kind of like loses steam here, with how he like breaks bones and how he has to defeat the lead bank robber of Simon, played by Ray Nicholson, who I mean, this is like another problem with the film. I think is like everyone here I think is almost trying too hard for jokes. There are some characters who are pretty natural at it, like Jacob Batalon, who you might know from the Spider-Man movies. He plays Nathan's best friend Roscoe, and he has a pretty good ease with like the chemistry between the two of them, where they don't feel like they're trying too hard for jokes. Whereas Ray Nicholson, he's just playing it up as just like a mustache twirling villain, just cackling at the screen, and almost like he wants to just kill Nathan more than actually get the money, and he just like loves stewing in evil and revenge. Like I said, a lot of like Renfield vibes here. The same goes for very much the wasted talents of Betty Gabriel and Matt Walsh, who are pretty good actors here, but they're not fully utilized for the comedy they could have as these police officers who are always one step behind Nathan and tracking down these bank robbers. You would think there'd be more there just because, these two actors do have some pretty good comedic chops between them, but they're never really given any great lines. They're never really given a chance to play with like the tone as much as Jack Quaid does in this role, where it almost feels like it feels like they're very much like the cops in the film, where they're struggling to keep up with this screenplay that kind of like does them no favors. So I was a little bit torn on the fence here, because like even if you do go that route of just like wanting to go in and see absurd action akin to like Crank, you might be a little disappointed because it doesn't really go as over the top as I think it should for this premise. I think it should just go like as bonkers as Crank, and I'm sure a lot of people will too. But I do think there is a decent amount of chemistry between Jack Quaid and Amber and Jacob that I think I admired a little bit more of the spirit of the film as it went into just action scene after action scene after action scene. I felt there was a little bit more of a better tonal flow there than there was with like a film I saw earlier this year called Love Hurts, which just kind of it just kind of switched gears even much more quickly and didn't put any of the work in to making the romantic chemistry on top of all the action comedy work as well as it should here. Novocaine tries a little bit more, where I was almost like very much forgiving of the lackluster writing as it went along, because it did play up the characters enough where I did care about them enough, and it did have like just enough absurdity where I felt it carried it at least to like the end of the second act. By the third act, you can tell it's running out of steam here. It's trying to come up with more ridiculous scenes of Jack Quaid, like, breaking his arms and stabbing people with his bones and using electricity. And it's throwing enough, I think, at the screen, but not everything. This is one of those films where you want everything in the kitchen sink to be thrown at the screen. And here it just kind of feels like they were trying, but then when they got to the kitchen sink, they're just kind of like, maybe too much. And it's like, it's almost kind of, the film is almost frustrating on that level. It's like, if you're going to go that far, go further, go more crazy with the concept, instead of just having like if you've seen the poster, it points out a lot of the stuff that he'll do in the film, so it's a little bit of like a spoiler. But if you're going to go that route, you got to go further. But for as far as Novocaine does go on this level, I admired the tone and the spirit, and Jack Quaid's performance. It's a performance that we've seen before, but he still does it pretty well. That I felt like if it didn't quite keep up the romance or like the good writing, it did keep up with the action and some of the absurdity. It's a little bit tongue in cheek here and there. And other times, it just like, it charges through with jokes that make sense for no reason. Like at one point, Nathan has to like write down an address, and he figures, since I can't feel anything with tattoos, maybe I'll just write the address down on my skin just because I can. And it's very much one of those films where it feels like it's just going into these action scenes because it can. And that's an admirable spirit, but if you're going to go that route, you got to go a bit further. So while I still enjoyed the film, I feel like Novocaine is still only about like 3/4 or maybe even half the film that it could have been, despite how much I liked Jack Quaid in this role, and despite how fun some of the action sequences were. I felt like it just had to keep going further instead of just kind of running out of steam at the end by just having a typical showdown. So yeah, Novocaine is fun, just not as fun as it could have been. So Novocaine is playing in theaters right now. It should be there for about another week or so, because I think it was like #1 at the box office. Read from the... hang on, let me get a drink here. All right. Scorn says, I liked Novocaine. It was pretty brutal and had some good laughs. My favorite kill was the final kill because it was inspired by a fatality from Havoc from NK1. I was wondering, it felt... that did feel like quite similar to something. I wasn't sure. Now that you say that, it does make sense. I was almost kind of thinking that if it was like an ode to like another action film, just because I was searching my memory for like, because it feels like it should be referencing something, But yeah, it would make sense for Mortal Kombat, for all that brutality. Yeah. Okay. Let me get another drink here, and we'll get to Black Big. Okay. How's my... okay. Sorry, I was just keeping an eye on the CPU. I think it jumped a little there. But I think it's holding in I think it's holding in there just fine. All right. All right. Let's move on to Black Big. In 3, 2, 1. So Black Bag is a spy thriller by Steven Soderbergh, and that was all I had to hear. that's I have enough faith in Soderbergh where when I saw the press release come out that Soderbergh has this new spy thriller coming out, and it has Cate Blanchett and it has Michael Fassbender, I'm like, say no more. I'm in. I didn't even look at a trailer. I didn't even read that much through the press notes. Just, okay, like it's written by David Kopp, and he's, been working with Soderbergh a lot more lately. Great. They did a great job on Presence. Let's see what they do with Black Bag. And I was very happy coming into this film cold, because yes, it is very much a stylish spy thriller, the way that Soderbergh usually frames a lot of his crime films. I love the way it's shot. It has like plenty of like interesting characters, and it has lots of great twists, and it's skillfully written. But I think what I really want to stress the most about this film, that what I love about it so much, is that it is sexy and smart. It is so smart that all these characters feel like they could easily outsmart one another, and not in like a like a smarmy cynical way, but in a way where it kind of feels like it's their job and they're wise about the world, because the whole premise is that Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett, they are this married couple of intelligence agents who are Catherine, played by Cate Blanchett, and George, played by Michael Fassbender. They're a married couple, but they're also agents who work for a British agency. And George gets information that there might be a rat within his agency, and he has to snuff it out. But the rat might be his wife, but it might also be these other agents who they're friends with, and they invite over to dinner parties. So George goes about all the tactics of just trying to like find out who it might be by, inviting them over to dinner, observing how they work in their own environment, and keeping tabs on them and spying on them, and just, thinking it through as they go along, while also suspecting his wife at the same time. And the way that it goes about it, because like the overarching story here is that, he needs to snuff out this rat because one of them has stolen this cyber virus called Cerberus, which, has some capabilities that could destabilize Russia. And it's like, and what I love so much about the way this film is written is that it realizes it's a film where, it doesn't slow down to explain it too much. It's a film where it realizes, look, these characters are smart. They would probably already know what this virus does, where we shouldn't have to slow down to explain it. And you kind of pick up pieces as you go along, where, if you've seen a lot of these spy thrillers, you can pick it up. So there's no moment where the film just like stops to just like, have, a character dole out exposition on it. And I was especially expecting that, from Pierce Brosnan, who doesn't really do too much in this film. He mostly plays like the boss of all the agents. So I fully expected him to just come in there and just deliver this dry exposition. And he doesn't. He still has his own suspicions. He still has this blustering for, wanting to maintain the dignity of his agency. So there's always something like intelligent and character driven going on within each one of these scenes, especially with all like the other characters we established, like Clarissa, played by Marissa Bella, who kind of feels like she's a little bit out of her element, but just like kind of, struggling to maintain herself in this agency. You have Tom Burke playing Freddie, who is just like a mess. He drinks and, he cheats on his wife. You have Naomi Harris, who plays like the psychologist doctor, who is just, trying to like separate business from like her personal life, which is really hard in this agency, and watching her struggle with that was very intriguing with how she interacts with all the members of the agency. And then you have Regé-Jean Page playing James Stokes, who feels like he's very professional and firm, but as the film goes along, we realize he's not as like by the books as we realize. And that goes for pretty much all the characters. It feels like they all have some other motive. They all have some emotional drive here, but they're also smart enough where they try not to let it like affect their mission. So it's not quite on the level of something like, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where it embraces the absurdity. But it does have like some pretty damn good like punchlines in between there. Like I love how at one point George kind of like, while he's trying to find like, security footage of trying to, find this virus, he walks through Clarissa, like how he maintains this relationship with his wife, which is basically on this level of, look, I'm spying on my wife, but she spies on me. We both spy on each other, and we kind of keep each other in check. Delivered in this kind of like very, very brilliantly written sequence that's meant to be both like, creepy and romantic at the same time, that even like Clarissa just exclaims at that moment, wow, that's pretty freaking hot. And there are so many moments like that throughout where like these characters just make these very calculated moves and choose their words very wisely. And then we'll just have like the perfect punchline to go along with it. We'll be like, damn, we really went there, didn't we? Not to mention, like, it's just sexy. I mean, you have Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender in this like lavish little estate they have, and they dress all sexy. Like you have Michael Fassbender like the turtlenecks and the thick glasses, where it looks like he could be playing like like some from like the Ipcris Files or something like that. Just and the way that how they have like this him and Blanchett have the sexual tension between them, it's just beautifully woven in there. It never feels like it's forced, like okay, like they're just having sex in between their missions. Like, no, they're always talking about like the trust issues they have, even when they're in bed together, when they're just about ready to, make out. Like, they're still talking about, this distrust, but also trust at the same time. So there's very much this kind of like mind game going through this film that I think Soderbergh weaves so well, to go along with just like the beautiful way that he shoots this film with this agency with all these like giant windows, and the way that he takes in a lot of these wide shots, and the opening sequence where he just follow Michael Fassbender down into this club and then out up the back alley to meet with his contact. It's just, everything about it is just so slick and crisp that it was absolutely my jam. And I think this might not be for everybody. I think it depends like how willing you are to stick with a spy thriller that doesn't rely on a lot of action and mostly on smarts and a lot of the charisma of like the characters, more for how they weave their way through conversations as opposed to just having like these giant expressions of emotion. Like, you get like bits and pieces of it throughout, where you kind of like see like these characters are so embroiled in like this secret agency and this intrigue, where it kind of feels like they're struggling to express themselves, but also managing to get a little bit more fulfillment than they would normally. And not to mention just like the deceptions that they have here, and the creative little twists, and just everything about this I love. Like, this is the type of Soderbergh film that is top tier for me. Like, there are a lot of films like that of his that I love, but this is pretty high up there. Just like, I love the way that it's directed, that it's shot, just the way that it looks, the way that it proceeds from scene to scene, and it's just it's around like I think like 90 minutes long. It's just like the crisp editing and the snappy writing, and just everything about it is just so just so, I don't have any other word for it, just like delicious. It's like, it's just like, it's having like such a fine glass of wine that just it's so dignified, and it goes down smooth, and it's sexy. This is the type of Soderbergh film I love. So yeah, I love the hell out of Black Bag. So Black Bag is playing in theaters. Black Bag. And it probably won't be there for long. So go check it out if you can. Yeah, and it probably won't, given how well Soderbergh's previous film did. Patience, which it did okay, but it didn't last in the theater too long. It's already on VOD right now, so. All right. We got one more. And I'll make this one like a little bit. I don't have too much to say on this. Nothing bad, mind you, just, I didn't even I didn't even realize I still had Twitch connected through here, but I guess it did. Yeah. Scorn says, I finally got around to finding a good price DVD of The French Connection on DVD ever since your plea for physical media, and it made me want to see it. Yeah, French Connection is pretty damn good. And in case you're wondering, if anyone did see that French Connection video I made last year, the edited version is no longer on streaming services. So if you're worried that you're not going to be seeing the full version through streaming, don't worry. They took down the edited version. The uncut version is still up there. But yes, the best way to see it is to see it on DVD or Blu-ray. And there are a few releases of it, so you can find it. But yeah, I'm glad you found a copy though. And I hope you enjoyed the director's commentary by Friedkin. Because it's really good. I was in fact, while I was writing that video, I had like the commentary going on in the background. I'm like, God damn, I remember like I watched the commentary like, oh God, I'm gonna date myself here, but I saw it like 22 years ago, and I remember like thinking like I love like the dynamic that he establishes between the characters and how he goes through it as well. So yeah, French Connection, It's totally my jam. All right. Let's get to the Superboys of Malegaon. Malegaon. I keep mispronouncing this one. They say the name of the town several times, and I keep it's like Malegaon. Malegaon. Trying to pronounce it. They say it several times in the film, and I'm trying to get used to it. All right. So here we go with the Superboys of Malegaon. 3, 2, 1. So, Superboys of Malegaon is based on the true story of a ragtag group of filmmakers who just decided one day, hey, let's make a movie. You know, this foursome of Indian boys decided, like, you know, hey, you know, we've got some skills. We could probably make a good movie that would bring people in to our local theater. Why don't we give it a shot? And it's one of those films where just on the ambition alone, I think it makes it for an interesting story. And I mean, heck, this actually was made into a documentary previously called The Supermen of Malegaon. And as a biopic, this film, it kind of goes through the expected motions that you would expect for this type of film, in that it walks you through how these four friends came together and decided to make a film, and how, you know, brought them together, but also made them realize the problems of their artistic ambition, and then ultimately arriving at an emotional crescendo where they realize that, you know, it's not so much about the filmmaking as it is the friends that we make along the way. So it went through a lot of the motions I expected, but it approaches it with enough earnest and heartfelt honesty where it very much won me over. And I think that's just because this is a film that takes the time to embrace just the ingenuity of the characters. Like, the characters here established are like Nasir, Farouk, Shafiq, and Akram. And they all, you know, they live in their little town of Malegaon, and they don't really have much going on in their lives. And one of the places where they hang out at is their local theater, in which they play classic films and Indian films, but, you know, they're not really getting as many people in there, and they're struggling, you know, they're just trying to struggle to find something to do with their lives. So then, you know, they start looking around for ways to improve their business, and at one point they take notice of like a VCR where they connect VCRs, and that's, oh, you can actually edit together films. So they decide, like, oh, why don't we just make like smash cuts of all these films that we usually show? What if we smash cut together a bunch of like action scenes and just make it like a, you know, like the best of like action moments, and we cut together punches that lead into kicks, and, you know, people get a kick out of this. And they do. It turns out to be really good. But then, of course, you know, the authorities bust them because they, you know, these films are being illegally edited and shown to the public, which they weren't allowed to do. So, of course, the next step they figure is like, okay, we've mastered editing. Why don't we just try to make a film of our own? So they decide to make their own little parody of Chalet. And this is where you can kind of see where this film is going. You start getting like vibes of Be Kind, Rewind, where it's just like, you know, oh, we don't have any films to show. You know, let's put it on our own. Let's make our own little version of Chalet, and we'll make it our own little version. It'll star like our friends, and we'll do our own special effects and our editing. And they go through the filmmaking process, and they realize all the problems that come with it, like, you know, doing multiple takes, getting schedules right, getting funding, getting actors, getting the picture just right, getting the lighting just right, trying to find like a big name actor to be in their film. Just all these problems that befall them. And they get through it, and then they get to that terrifying moment where it's premiere night. Everyone in town comes to watch their film, and they can't do it. They can't be in the same room as their finished product, and they wait outside just with this eager anticipation. Did they love it? Did they hate it? What happens? And of course, like, you know, they come out and they love it, and they're inspired to make more films. And the film just kind of like sticks with them with like the creative differences that they have and how they get torn apart, and then eventually realizing that, you know, you got to be there for each other, especially with Shafiq, played here by Shashank Arora, who is just like, he's so, how do I put this? He's like the woman, the girl who was constantly sick and ended up dying in Little Women, where it's just like, you know, Shafiq he comes down with cancer and he realizes he doesn't have much time left. And so his friends decide, they've kind of split up, but they come back together and realize, wait, what if we make a film where we make Shafiq the star? Because he's never had that moment to shine. He's never got a moment to be in the camera. Even during scenes where he was a stand-in actor, he ended up getting edited out of the film. So they were just like, we need to do something for him. So they end up making this film about making him basically Superman, or their version of Superman, where he topples over a villain who wants to sell cigarettes to kids. And it's very much, it goes through a lot of like the emotional roller coaster you expect for that, where there's some joy in the filmmaking, but also some sadness and realizing this is probably the last time we'll see Shafiq at his best, and this is his moment to shine, and just embracing that moment of just being there for your friend and having that moment immortalized on the big screen. And I think that there are some other plot lines that go throughout the film, like a forced marriage and a distance romance, a struggling for funding and creative differences between all the characters, which I thought was good for on a scene by scene basis. They work pretty well, and I actually kind of dug the scenes as they were almost like compartmentalized. It almost got to a point where it almost kind of felt like an anthology at times with how they split and then just, the diverging paths. But then, of course, that it's going to come together here for a lot of the payoff, especially with Shafiq, how he brings up at one point that, I'm going to soar to something better in life. And then sure enough, by the end, he gets immortalized by being in his own Superman film. So it's one of those movies where on the genuine filmmaking spirit, I think it's going to be attractive for a lot of people who like those films like Be Kind, Rewind. In fact, I think a lot of people who do like Be Kind, Rewind might like this film a little bit more, just because I think it has its heart a little bit more firmly in place. And I think, I think where the diverging point might be, where it almost kind of veers a little bit more into melodrama. Not quite. It feels like it teeters right on the edge of being melodrama, where you don't care so much about the characters, and it's trying to heighten up the drama of the story a little bit too much for what it would have to do for this Indian film. But thankfully, it doesn't. I think just like the spirit of the characters carries it through, because you want to see them hook up for filmmaking. You just watching them work together is great. There's a lot of beautiful montages between them where they're just they're trying to get the shot just right, and when they finally do finish filming, there's joy and celebration, and when they can't make the films they want, there's arguments and discussions, just evoking all the expected moments of drama that I could see coming a mile away. But when they arrive, just like the talents of everyone here, like Adarsh Gaurav and Vinit Kumar Singh, just everyone does put a lot of heart into their roles, where it doesn't feel like they're just kind of like phoning it in the same way that not quite in the same way that like the non-professional actors would in just like a rinky-dink homemade movie as in Malegaon. So it does make you, it is like glitzed up a little bit here and there to make it look like not as like ramshackle as like making these films truly were, but like the good intentions are there, and I think I just like I admired it on a filmmaking level. So yeah, if you've ever made a film before, you just love movies about making movies, Superboys of Malegaon, it satisfies that true story inspiration to like pick up a camera and shoot something, especially from like the Indian perspective, for being a bunch of guys in this small town who felt like they were going nowhere, and then here they are, immortalized, making a Superman movie. So yeah, Superboys of Malegaon was a pretty fun and very heartfelt film about making films. So Superboys of Malegaon. It's I think it's coming to Prime soon. I think it was coming to theaters. And I think it might still be in a few theaters right now, but I think if it's not already, it should be coming to Prime Video very soon. So yeah. I'll read a little bit of the chat here. From Scorn811, I'm very anti-censorship for editing films and TV like that. Feels like trying to forget history. From the French Connection, yeah, I'm on the same page with you there. Cutting episodes from syndication because of things like recent events, I can understand. But if it's put back, in the DVD, yeah, it should be accessible. Like that's the key thing. Which is why I'm glad that like the French Connection was on physical media, so you don't have to worry about having no other avenue to watch it, which is why I like having all these DVDs and Blu-rays here, so that I don't have to worry about it being on a specific service. Like if I ever need some cheering up, I always put on like Tati's Playtime over there. If it's the New Year's or the Christmas season and I want something a little sad but a little like life affirming, I put on The Apartment up there. So yeah, it's always nice to have them on hand, so you don't have to go searching through streaming services. So and that way the services won't edit them. It's like, what was it? I don't know if anyone's seen this. Maybe it's just within the physical media community, but like there's that meme where someone says, oh, the film I'm trying to find, the old film I'm trying to find, I can't find it on any streaming service. And there's that person who points to their collection like, really? I don't have that problem. I wonder why. But also, too, you might be going to the wrong streaming services. Because really, if you want like the older films and stuff like that, you go to you go to places like Mubi and the Criterion Channel, because I think like was it like on the Criterion Channel they have I think they have like Michael Mann films on there now. So if you want to watch like so many good ones, there's Heat, there's what was that one with Tom Cruise and Jamie Collateral. Oh man, this is so good, such good films. Yeah, if you want, you got to go to the right service for that. Not to mention, like, surprisingly, Tubi actually has a lot of older films in there. Like, I found out yesterday that I think it might still be up there, but I think that's the only place right now where you can watch Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which is a fantastic little stage drama. Yeah, if you've never seen it before, and that's like the only way to see it. So at least you can see it for free. That meme is totally That's good, because then everyone knows who to go to. That way, when your friends are trying to look for that film, you just say like, "Oh yeah, I got that. You want to borrow that? You want to borrow that movie?" Because that's why I think I saw that for the longest time. I had like 2 or 3 copies of Spirited Away, just because like back in the mid 2000s, I knew a lot of families who wanted to watch that film. They didn't know where to find it for some reason, even though it was a Disney film. So I lent them my copy so many times, I just bought like another one just to keep as like my rental copy, I'm glad some Shudder originals get DVD Blu-ray releases. Yeah. I think that's why I know like some people have a little bit of issues with like certain distributors, but I'm glad that there are distributors out there who are preserving films that deserve to be on home video. Like even before Anora won the Academy Award for Best Picture, Criterion had already picked it up for a Blu-ray release, which is coming out soon, and I'm very excited about that. So it's good to know. Like, and I mean, Criterion have been already doing that with a bunch of other films, like Anatomy of a Fall and all that. So yeah, I love showing off my copy of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, autographed by Bill Moseley. You can't autograph a streaming movie. That's true. I do like it when you get to when you do get like people to autograph your physical copy, because I think actually, now that I think about it, here we go, because I actually do have some autographed copies. Are these the 2? Wait, I got 1. Is it 1 or 2? Oh no, wait, I do have 2. Okay, so here's like my favorite autographed copies. So my first, Doctor Who fans know, yeah, whoever is the first Doctor you watch is your favorite Doctor, and I started watching Doctor Who reruns in its last run where they had Sylvester McCoy, and the companion that Sylvester McCoy had for most of his run was Sophia Allred, and she was at a convention, and I got her to sign both of these. Like these are 2 of like my favorite ones, of like Ghostlight and Curse of the Fenric, especially for Allred's performance. So I got her to sign both these covers. So yeah, I love having those like that. I think in I don't think I have it on hand, but I also have a Mystery Science Theater one that I think I got signed by the staff. Actually, I think I do have it down here. Let me... One moment here. Oh, here it is. Let's see. I think they kind of scribbled it on there, but I think you can kind of see it in the corner there. There's Joel. I think I got it signed by Joel Hodgson and who else was there? I think it was Kevin Murphy was there, and what's her name? She played Pearl. But yeah, I think I got their signatures there. Like you can see the JH. Let me see if I can get it in frame here. You can see right a hand right there. There's the JH by Joel Hodgson. Yeah. So yeah, it's fun to get them autographed like that because then you have them on hand. You can always watch them. It's very nostalgic too because like sometimes there'll be like trailers on there. So yeah, that's my geeky moment of like confessing my love for Doctor Who and Mystery Science Theater, which I don't think is too out there. Gotta show some pride for Minnesota stuff there. Mary Jo Fell, yeah, that's who it was. I think I got her signature because I know like it was when I went to Convergence in Minnesota. I think they had most the MST3K people there. I think the only one who wasn't there was was it Trace? I think Trace wasn't there one day, and so I didn't get his autograph. So yeah, it was always fun to like geek out when they would like come to conventions and stuff like that. Especially like I got to see one of their like their last like kind of like live performances they did, and I think they did it with one of like the Hercules films, I think, and it was one of those experiences where like, you know, if you've ever gone to like a comedy show, like and you see it live in person, like it's a different experience because you find yourself just like laughing so hard in the moment there that it's almost kind of like hard to remember specific things there just because like it's like mile a minute with MST3K. So yeah, it's fun to geek out and stuff like that. So yeah, I got those at both of those autographs I got at Convergence. And speaking of conventions, good segue here. I will be at Anime Detour at the end of the month here. That's coming up in less than 2 weeks, roughly about a week. So yeah, I got a lot planned for that convention. I've got a lot of panels that I'm promoting there, and I'll also be there with I know it seems like I've kind of got like a TARDIS down here. I just keep grabbing stuff and I have it. But I'll also be promoting my new book, Cartoons and Serials, A History of Saturday Morning Cartoons. You can get this book on Amazon, or it goes through like I think Barnes and Noble as well. But I'll have these copies available at Anime Detour if anyone wants to buy them. And if you'd like a cheaper copy, you can sign up on my Patreon to get a copy because like the Patreon is only $15 a month. So the book itself is like $22. So you're saving $7 by doing that. So but yeah, this is a very fun book to write. I'm glad that a lot of people have actually been reading it and having a good time with it. So yeah, I can't wait to get back to writing my next book and just like look at how thick that is. The tasteful thickness of it all. So yeah, I'll be promoting that book specifically more at my Saturday Morning Cartoons panel. So that'll be a lot of fun. All right, well, we've been on this for quite a bit, so let's do a quick recap of the films I reviewed on today's stream. I reviewed Novocaine, an action comedy in which Jack Quaid can't feel pain and has to stop some bank robbers and save the love of his life. Has a few interesting twists, but it's not the best screenplay, but it does have a decent amount of fun with its concept where it kind of won me over. I reviewed Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag, a sexy and smart spy thriller by Steven Soderbergh that was absolutely my jam. Fantastic writing, amazing filmmaking. Just, I love everything about this film. And finally, I reviewed the Superboys of Malegaon, a Indian true story about a bunch of small town amateur filmmakers who ended up making their dreams become a reality. It comes close to being melodrama, but thankfully doesn't, and it ends up being an enduring film about making films. So among all those, they're all pretty good, but I'd say the big one is Black Bag. Black Bag is absolutely my jam. I loved watching it. It's a crisp, like, very surprisingly short film. It's under 2 hours, and I loved the hell out of it. Fantastic writing. It's a film for if you're frustrated with spy thrillers and how characters make easy mistakes, you will love this film. Because every character here, even the ones who are like sloppy messes, do end up being like fairly smart and intelligent with what they're doing here, and rather sexy at times. So it's a fantastic film. So yeah, if you'd like to read reviews of all that stuff I just talked about, you can check out the reviews over on movieswithmark.com. You can also check out filminquiry.com for my latest review of The Day the Earth Blew Up, the Looney Tunes movie that came out this weekend. It didn't do too hot. It's only at number 5 in like the top 5. But if you haven't seen it and you love cartoons, you need to check this out. It's one of the best Looney Tunes films ever made. Low bar, I know, but it cleared it with incredible ease. I love the hell out of this film. Since I saw it way back in December. No, actually it was November where I saw it first. So yeah, it's been a while, but it still sticks out in my memory as just being that good. So go check it out if you haven't. And yes, as Scorn mentioned, I am currently writing a book on banned movies from across the world, and I'm updating that on the Patreon as I go. So if you like that, be sure to check it out, and I will be back later with more movie reviews as we near closer to summer, and we have some bigger films coming up, and we'll see what we get to cover. But yeah, if I don't get around to it then, you can check me out over at Anime Detour down here in Minneapolis. So yeah, until next time, everybody, have a good one.